You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off.
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a fault. Get to the chopper! And lead to the flesh wound. I am the father.
Welcome back to another episode of SludgeCast, and Matt, I know what episode this is. It's episode 8.
Yes, it is episode 8. You're getting good at that, man.
It was only because I had to work on the notes earlier. I was like, what episode? 8. I want to remember this.
There you go.
So thank you guys again for listening. Thank you always for listening. We are continuing to grow as far as listeners, and we're seeing a lot of more communication from people that aren't just listeners anymore, to definitely become friends, and definitely shout outs to Justin McLean and Pete Quint, 2 guys that have started listening to the show and just, become friends of ours. And it's gone beyond the show to where it's just random banter on Facebook and communications. Actually, I think Pete messaged me the other day and asked if I was going to go to G-Fest this year because he's going.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was like, yeah, dude, I'm actually planning on going this year for it because I'd like to go. There's one of the main actors, Akira Takarada, was supposed to go last year but couldn't because of health issues. He had a surgery, and I missed Haruo Nakajima before he passed away. The guy played Godzilla. I don't want to miss Akira Takarada before, and pray that he doesn't pass away anytime soon. So I'm going this year. There's no question. But anyway, so we're back, episode 8. We have got a special guest in the house, Jason Murray, a good friend of ours from our church that we go to here at Grace Point in Bristol. Jason, you want to say hi?
What's up, guys?
And obviously we've got Matt in the house.
Yeah, I'm here again. Sorry.
We are missing another one again. We are missing Tyler. So
who else would we miss?
Yeah, he's the only one that's ever gone. So and we were talking about this, his wife's birthday, Hannah. Happy birthday, Hannah. Was technically yesterday, and they're out doing family dinner or something like that, right? Yeah. So they're doing their celebration for her, and so it's a good reason to miss. But we really I found out the real reason why he isn't here.
He's scared.
He's scared because if we'll recall the last SludgeCast episode, the Stump the Sludge question about what's the name of that dumb cat? Toro
the cat.
Toro
yes,
the cat.
Toro the cat.
Isn't that the name of bug poison or
rat
baits?
poison?
Rat poison, maybe.
Or,
Toro.
I don't know.
Something.
A brand, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a brand of poison. So it's Anyway, so he said that was PlayStation's mascot. We found out that was wrong, and not taking away from Tyler, but it bugged me so much because I was like, I don't remember a commercial, I don't remember pictures, nothing of this cat till way later on. And come to find out, it was actually like a polygon face named Polygon or Polyman was on a few things at the beginning, who was the technical first mascot, but PlayStation never has had a single mascot in its career. They've always changed to whoever's bigger. So they did start with Crash, so I was technically right there, but it's moved on. So you've had Crash, and you've had Kratos from God of War, what's his name, the character from Devil May Cry. So they've all taken turns, a big series of being a mascot for PlayStation. So technically it's everybody, not some cat that doesn't really exist. So, but that's why. So that's, Tyler, we're calling you out. That's why you're not here. It's not for Hannah's birthday. It's because I called you out on that question. So anyways, we got a great show tonight. We've got a few things on the newsreel coming up here in just a moment we want to talk about, but we've got 2 awesome topics. We've got one, since it is October and it is Halloween time, and we know a lot of listeners, celebrate Halloween. Some may, some don't, just whatever it is. It's that month. And thought it'd be great to talk about the Universal Classic Monsters because they are just nothing short of legendary. When it comes to movies, they're it. They're actually, a lot of people talk about Marvel being the first shared universe. Nope. Universal Monsters. Universal started that back in the 40s. Even though the movies started coming out in the 20s, but we'll get into that, in a little bit. So we're going to talk about the classic Universal Monsters, all the big bads that we know, Dracula, Frankenstein, all that stuff. And then I think, Jason, you're going to fill in for Stump the Sludge tonight, right?
Possibly. I'm just here to warm Tyler's seat.
Okay.
He'll be back and take care of this.
So he's going to throw some questions at me. And then topic 2 is going to be the console wars. So we did skip and do 64 first with PlayStation and the Saturn, but we're going back one to the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. Honestly, because I forgot it. But it worked out because my father, who's going to try and be here, and so he may pipe in later on with this. He's been having some car issues. Me and him have had serious real wars when it comes to the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. So it would be perfect to have him here for this. But we'll hit into console wars with the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, which what I think, honestly, is probably of all the console wars, the biggest, most pivotal, and well-known. I mean, it was the bit wars then at that point.
Yeah.
So, Jay, you know what the bit wars were? So, I mean,
Yes.
I know a lot of people today are probably like, bit wars, what's that? Well, it don't matter now because the graphics are all the same. But back then, you were fighting for every bit you could for better graphics and dealing with the 8 bits, 16 bits, and we'll get into that. So, but it's going to be a fun show. So, actually, let's, before we jump into the news, we've got something really, really fun that a listener of ours helped us come up with. Something we're going to start doing on the SludgeCast is a game that we're going to call Shatner. And what it is, and we're going to start this tonight, is a listener. Tonight's going to be Pete Quint because he was the one who kind of came up with the idea. Will, throughout the recording of the episode, will message us the word Shatner, and whoever is talking at that time, and I'll yell out Shatner, or I'll just start doing Shatner when he does it, and whoever is talking has to start acting like and finish what they're saying like William Shatner, and not mildly. We got to go over the top. Twilight Zone, Nightmare 20,000 Feet, there's something on the wing. Like, we're going to get real into it. It's going to be so much fun. I'm excited. Like,
I don't know that I'm going to be able to hold it together.
I'm excited.
Lose it.
I'm excited what you're going to do.
I really hope it's you.
Watch. Like, it may be twice. It may be 10 times. We don't know. But it may be 50. Who knows? And it may be me all night long. So hopefully he spaces it out because it'll be random. But this is something that's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be interactive with the listeners. So each time we do an episode, we will reach out to a listener and say, hey, do you want to do the Shatner game this episode? And we'll set it up to where you're the one who calls Shatner for us. So, all right, you guys ready for that? I am.
Oh no,
I'm so excited about that.
I so see Chase gonna just yell out Shatner while we're talking.
Oh man,
he's not gonna wait on the
Shatner. Do it now. All right, so. Let's get into some news things real quick. One thing that we haven't talked about much is because we just got done with Avengers Infinity War. We got the newest one, or the fourth one, just finished wrapping. There was that awesome thing from Chris Evans that he put on his Twitter account. Because it was sad. It was, man.
It's a bummer.
No more Chris Evans' cap, and that's so much speculation because
then they kind of throw back on that though, like. Then he had to come back and explain what he was talking about. Not that he may not continue, but you can pretty much assume it's over.
It's over. I mean, he is no longer Cap. It's the question I really think boils down to is he going to die in the film?
Right.
I mean, I think he kind of has to. I mean,
so sad.
He's got to do it. I mean, you can't do it the comic way. I mean, he's not going to take a bullet for some random dude, that's going to trial who's actually innocent. But I mean, at the hands of Thanos or...
See, I figured that was going to happen in the first movie, and I thought...
I did too.
That would have been a great way to end that.
Yeah, especially at that war, and then Bucky picks up the shield, and it's like,
right.
No, I mean, I want Falcon to be... I mean, I would love Falcon to be Captain America, because he was, but Bucky is Captain America.
No, they're setting...
It's got to be Bucky.
They're setting him up for that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be awesome. I also kind of wonder, and this is one thing too, since you're sitting in Tyler's seat, and you got to make sure and help reel me in because that's what he does.
Back to the subject
at hand. It's called Avengers Annihilation. So I'm wondering if Annihilus is coming into this movie, and that's. We won't get into the fan theories yet, but there's a lot in there. So anyways, there's not been too much going on the Marvel front other than that, except we did just find out, Tom Holland announced today that Spider-Man Far From Home is finally finished production. So we should be getting a trailer hopefully in the next couple months. I think it's awesome. I don't know if anybody's seen. I mean, obviously we know Mysterio is going to be the big bad guy. Michael Keaton's coming back as the Vulture. We got Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm excited to see how they portray Mysterio on film. Like it's going to be awesome. What they would need to do, since we've got the Vulture and we've got Mysterio, they need to bring Doc Ock in the next one. Somehow move into a Sinister Six film, because we just got Venom and we're getting Morbius. Let's bring it all together. So, quick bit. Have you guys seen Venom yet? I know, Jason, you haven't, right?
I have not.
Okay, so it is not released in China yet. Actually, just got its date. It's October 26th is when it hits China, I believe. But it's about to, as of this recording, it's about to break $400 million.
Wow.
It dominated its opening weekend and last weekend. It's going to drop next weekend. Halloween comes out this upcoming weekend, but it far surpassed all expectations. And it's a great movie. I love it. Little language heavy for some people, but it was absolutely phenomenal. Everything I wanted, so much better than Spider-Man 3 and that boy band Venom that Matt loves so much. Dude, I sat at the house the other day and tried. I tried to watch it. I didn't make it 10 minutes.
Dude, my wife was flipping through Netflix the other day, and she's like, "Hey, look!" I was like, "Yeah, let's watch that." I said, "I'll text Chase." And she even mentioned it too. She was like, "We need to send Chase a picture of this."
I know it's kind of the running joke, and I heard you talk about it several times. But what is your biggest disdain for that movie? What's your main thing?
My main thing, because that's a long list of disdain.
Yes, it's a very long list.
My main thing for that is Venom. 100% Venom. Topher Grace was the worst pick for Eddie Brock. He was the worst pick for Venom. The line deliveries from him are horrible. When he calls Peter Tiger, I'm like, you're just no. I couldn't do that at all. I felt like I was looking at one of the guys from NSYNC in a black Spider-Man costume. I'm like, I can't do it.
That would have been hilarious. Justin Timberlake.
Venom. He probably would have done a better job than Topher Grace. He just didn't fit. The casting was completely terrible. The suit was not good. I like that they kept it kind of real. Because it's an actual suit, but it was the whole delivery of Venom was horrible. Among the 500 million other things wrong with that movie, but Venom. Because I'm a big Venom fan.
Sure.
I love Venom. That's my biggest beef, and I will never let that go.
I just had to ask that.
That's what it is. Because that's just not Venom. It's not. That's borderline Titanic bad. It's
oh Lord, here we go.
It's rough, man.
What about Avatar?
At least Spider-Man ended. I will say that much, okay? Because Avatar took 16 times. It was like Lord of the Rings. I love the books. The movie was nothing but walking, but it ended 80 times. I'm like, just end the movie. It's over. That was Avatar. He put all endings for the next 4 films in the first movie.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. Anyways, moving on. So going from one movie to another.
What are we talking about again?
We were talking about Spider-Man. Spider-Man Far From Home.
That was my fault.
Yeah. So it's
it was going to come up no matter what. It was going to.
Yeah, but it always does. So it's done. We're real excited about that. It comes out July 5th next year. Tom Holland's great. I think Tom Holland, everybody probably could agree, he's the best Spider-Man we've ever had. Definitely overall. Tobey, he was a great Peter Parker. I love Tobey as Peter Parker.
The boys get so mad at me, but I still think Andrew Garfield is the best.
Dude, Andrew,
I don't know why. There's so many. The chemistry with them two was just amazing. And I know that sounds corny, but I just thought that. I'm not saying Tom Holland is worse or far better or far worse, but I think there's some to be said there for him. I really liked his character, and I hated how they ended it.
Yeah, it was way too abrupt. Yeah, I would love, because I loved Garfield especially. I had a little bit of complaints with him in the Peter Parker role, but for Spider-Man, I loved it. He brought the quick whips back.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Tobey couldn't do that. That's why he never did it. He could not deliver that stuff. Andrew was great at the jokes. I loved it.
Yes.
Yeah. I loved him. He's my second favorite Spider-Man, definitely. I feel like Tom is just perfect all around. He's great. I think I probably would have liked Andrew even more so if they'd have put him out of high school. Because I think that was my only
age,
beef. Yeah, it was the age thing.
And that's where Tom comes in so much better.
Yeah, because he's a kid, and he does great, being that kid as Spider-Man. So, but, they're all better than Tobey Maguire. But, so anyways, next movie we want to talk about in the news reel is Flash. Flash is, of course, we got Aquaman coming up. next month, right? Or do they move it back to December? Do you remember, Matt?
Don't know.
I think it's December now. But so we got Aquaman coming up here very soon. And then next year we have got Wonder Woman 1984, which is going to be great. Well, then the next to follow that was supposed to be The Flash. The Flash is still happening, but it's been pushed back even further now.
It's a bummer.
So, yeah. I think a lot of it's got to do with Cavill leaving, what's Ben going to do? There's a lot of play, but they're still 100% they want to do the Flash solo movie. I think what's causing us to push back is now that you've got Cavill gone and the possibility that Ben's not going to be around for the Flash movie, they originally talked about doing the Flash Paradox.
Yeah.
Which you don't need. Yeah, you do need Ben in it still, but you definitely needed Henry Cavill as Superman. So that throws a big wrench in that. So they've pushed it back. It's not starting in March. It's going to be like May sometime is when of the 2019 is when they're going to start filming it. And they've stated they want to make sure that they get the script right. They want to make sure it's perfect. So it's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But
I thought the way they put him in Justice League was perfect.
He was.
It was perfect in that movie.
I wasn't sure about Ezra.
Yeah.
Because I like Grant Gustin.
Oh, man.
Grant is such a... to me... I still remember Wesley Shipp, as the Flash in the 90s. I loved him. That was my first Flash. Well, I guess that was everybody's first Flash, technically, but, live action. But Grant, to me, he embodies that character flawlessly. I don't think Ezra embodies Barry Allen in the Flash like Grant does, but he's got a really cool ditzy spin to it. You know what I mean? Like the little quips he does.
Well, I think
a lot.
Kind of like season 1 of Barry Allen on the TV show. He was kind of that awkward, trying to find the role. Yeah. And it's kind of same thing.
Yeah, but I think Ezra, the way he brought it on is like he is the funnier of the two. Like Grant is way, I don't want to say way too serious, but Ezra just has that knack of catching the quick comic.
He does. I'm going to be interested to see how he handles the series. He didn't get any really things serious in Justice League.
No.
So that's going to be interesting to see. And I'm excited because he's a great actor. Ezra Miller's a really, really good actor. But we'll see. We're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. So another couple quick things, too. If no one's seen, we did try to share this on the page because I do try to share news into pop culture, especially superhero stuff, on our Facebook page so that you guys, the listeners, can check it in case you don't see it. But Netflix did officially cancel Iron Fist. And that was a bummer. You didn't watch either one, did you?
No, I've seen season 1. I haven't watched season 2. I'm waiting for winter time and cold air and couch time.
You're going to hibernate.
Fire. Yes, so I can.
It's already cold to Matt. I don't know what he's talking about.
It is cold.
It is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, people that live in like Colorado that already have like a foot of snow.
They're like, it's like cold.
This 50 degree stuff, I'm over it.
Season 2 was great. It was so much better. I didn't dislike season 1. My only beef with season 1 was his martial arts skill on film wasn't very 100% believable. Finn Jones, the guy that plays, Danny Rand, but in the second season, far better. I feel like he spent the whole time practicing at a dojo or something.
Right? Yeah. To me, I didn't much care about the fight sequence in the first set of movies or the series. I just thought the show itself was clean. I really enjoyed that. Relatively clean as compared to say Jessica Jones or Luke Cage.
Oh yeah, those two especially.
Yeah, and but I just enjoyed his story. I thought it was more.
Season 2, Shatner. Season 2, yes, season 2 of Iron Fist was so much better than season 1 because of the story between him and the great mighty Davos.
I was so gonna just shout it out a minute ago.
There we go.
And that is so good.
This is awesome. This is going to be great. So, for those who didn't catch at the beginning, we are playing Shatner now on SludgeCast, and our listener, Pete Quint, is playing with us. Thank you, Pete.
Awesome.
And randomly through the show, he will text us Shatner, and whoever's talking has to start talking like William Shatner. This is going to be awesome.
I love it. It's so good.
You're going to love season 2. A lot better.
Yeah,
So.
I can't wait. I haven't even watched season 2 of Daredevil yet.
Man, season 3 is going to be...
So season 3 is going to be right there, and I'll just be able to go through binge watch everything.
Season 3 is going to be great.
Excited.
I didn't know how they were going to top season 3 with bringing in Punisher from season 2 on Daredevil. Bullseye that they're bringing in.
Yeah.
because the Daredevil film with Affleck left such a bad taste. Colin Farrell was a terrible, terrible bullseye. Anyways.
What? I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait a minute. I got concerned there for a second. Okay, we're good. We're all right. But it looks great on this one. This is going to be real good. They were really teasing a very spiritual journey for Matt in season 3. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what happens. And
then they'll cancel it too. So
they better not. It's still the number one show for them. But anyways, last thing, and then we'll move into the first topic. The Arrowverse. There's so much coming out because of the crossover event this year. And so for those listeners who don't know, Arrowverse, which if you don't know, I don't know how you're listening to the show because most of the listeners know what's going on. But I mean, that started with Arrow, the DC show that's on CW, followed by, now we've got The Flash that's been out, the second biggest show for the Arrowverse. Then you got Supergirl. Well, no, I'm sorry. Legends of Tomorrow came out first. Then Supergirl. And then you've got Black Lightning, but Black Lightning's not really come all the way over yet, but still technically is.
No.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with that one. I don't want them to bring it over. I kind of like, I mean, I got 2 episodes in, and they just did one thing in a church scene that I was like, I can't watch, I'm not going to watch the show. So, but I've heard it's good. I've heard people like it. But so anyways, when we talk about Arrowverse and the crossover stuff, that's the big main shows of Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow.
It's got Superman in it too, doesn't it?
That's right. Superman's in the Supergirl.
Where's Batman at?
Where? That's because hey, he's coming. Okay, just a side note, Gotham's coming out in January, this last season, and they have confirmed we get to see Batman in the last episode. So it's just going to be awesome. Anyways. It doesn't. You know what? They hold Batman for the best part. We're not going to get into this Batman Superman.
You seen where they're going to have Superman in the black suit in the Arrowverse?
That's what we're going to. Yes. So one of the things they announced, and we'll show that picture. He's going to be in the black suit. I don't think we're going to see Doomsday. So I'm wondering how, because they're doing the Elseworlds, which we've seen the poster. So you've got Oliver's the Flash, and now Barry is Green Arrow.
But didn't that originally take place like within the Batman comic books, or was it the whole DC universe?
The whole DC universe.
Okay, I thought I read somewhere it started with Batman or something.
I think the first episode first issue of that story arc started in Batman.
Okay, because I was thinking, how are they going to do this? And it was Batman. I was like, well, maybe that's how they're going to bring Batgirl in.
That's what they're going to do. Because the biggest thing right now with DC is they're not. Man, they're really tight about bringing Batman back to TV. I don't know why. I really don't understand. But I mean, they're very protective of Batman, and I don't know that maybe they just don't feel it's the right time for him. So they're definitely testing the waters with Batwoman. Again, not super stoked about it being Kate Kane, but Ruby Rose, they released a picture of her as Batwoman. She looks awesome. She looks really cool as Kate Kane. If they can keep some of the other things, because I know it's not going to be big in this one, but they can keep some of the other stuff about Kate Kane's Batwoman kind of in the background, I'll be cool with it, because I want to focus on the superhero of who she is. And if they'll do that, I'm going to love it. And this crossover event's going to decide whether or not we get the full show. So it's all going to be teeter on this. Because if it goes good, she signed on to do the first season of Batwoman, and it'll be part of the Arrowverse. So it'll be interesting to see. There's going to be a lot on this one, but I'm stoked. Black suit Superman. The Switch, I mean, it's going to be great. I'd love to see. I think Oliver would be boss Flash. Like, I mean, he'd be great. So I'm pretty stoked about this one. There's a lot going on. Of course, it's in December. They did announce that Legends will not be partaking in the crossover event this year, but they did state they have their own major event going on at the time. They haven't said what, but there's a pretty good storyline going on. So pretty excited. We're actually going to do an episode coming up here soon about the Arrowverse, because it's a real big show. Actually, Arrow is my favorite TV show on TV currently, and has been for the last 7 years, or going on 7 years now. But Jason's big. You watch all the shows.
Yes, very much so.
So does Micah and Caleb, your sons.
Caleb is more dominant. It's all about the Flash with him, and then Arrow. He's hooked on the Arrow, but Flash is definitely his.
Oh, dude. When they brought the ring out on the first episode, this one, was so good.
I was telling Matt, I might have even told you, I was telling Matt when we were sitting there watching, it was me and Caleb, and as soon as she handed over the ring, Caleb jumps off the couch, comes over, and I'm sitting up, and we're high-fiving while we're still watching.
That's awesome.
He did tell me I think he said he was going to have that as his wedding ring or something like that.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah. That's awesome. And I have to agree. I mean, the wife that he gets that says, yes, this can be your wedding ring.
She's going to be it for him.
Oh, yeah. She wins the wife of a lifetime award. So do you, Sarah. I'm just saying, in case you're listening to this. It's just, a wife that allows you to have the flash ring. That's kind of something else there. But let's move on to our first topic now after I've stuck my foot in real far on that one. So here we go on to topic one is the Universal monsters. So Universal monsters, everybody knows them. I mean, you got the big bads, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, Creature from Black Lagoon. But they start way beyond, prior to that. Actually, before, because most people are like, Dracula was the first. Nope. The first was actually none other than Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is a phenomenal movie. That one came out in 1923. And then, of course, followed by what came next after that is my favorite one. Now, because I'm a big fan, my favorite movie, the original Family Opera, 1925. Phenomenal movie. It's a great silent film. Lon Chaney's performance as the Phantom is absolutely unbelievable. One of the things I like to say about Lon Chaney especially, because we'll get into the actors, because there's three really, really big names when it comes to Universal Horror, when it comes to the actor, being Lon Chaney, Bela Lugosi, and Boris Karloff. Lon Chaney, I think, was the best of them all for several reasons. Obviously, he played more characters than any of them. I mean, he was Quasimodo, the Phantom, and then, of course, the Wolfman. Lon Chaney, he did his own special effects for Hunchback of Notre Dame and Family Opera. So when you see him as Quasimodo, the hump and all that stuff, which was made like a plaster and stuff on his face, he did all that. He designed all of his own makeup. He put it all on. And apparently from things I've read is he was actually, every scene he shot as Quasimodo, he was actually in real pain. Like it hurt him to be in that.
Wow.
But he was such a dedicated actor. And same thing with the Phantom. He did the makeup for the Phantom, and I mean, he didn't do it for the Wolfman. But as far as with the other ones, I mean, he did it. And he's such a good dramatic actor. Lon's probably my favorite of the three, but all three of them are just awesome. So, but Universal Studios came out in the early 20s. They were a studio, still there. Actually, they're the only studio that still has a lot of the original lots. They still film on the original sets. They've rebuilt stuff and everything. Actually, they're the only studio that still has one of the first original movie sets of ever. It's from Family Opera. It's the Opera House. They still have in Studio 28, I think is the number. The Opera House is still there within it, and then you get to drive by apparently and see it in the studio tour. I don't know that you get to go in and see it.
That's cool.
I would totally, if I went in the studio tour, I'm not gonna lie, I would risk going to jail, break in and see that. Like, I love that movie, and to be able to see that set would just be, it'd be epic.
It would be awesome.
So they came out. Carl, you told me earlier, Lemille. Is that how you pronounced it? I can never get his name right. Yeah, I think it's Lemille. Carl. You'll see him on. We're just going to call him Carl. He was a German gentleman who came over, and he founded and started Universal Studios. And Universal Studios was supposed to be a B movie studio, B westerns, and just smaller flicks with an occasional big blockbuster every now and then. But Carl Lemille, we're just going to call you Carl. He really started a lot of careers for people. And from what, like Fay Ray, I mean, obviously, you've got King Kong was done with Universal as well and RKO Pictures. But Fay Ray, I saw an interview with her about Carl. She said that Carl was just one of the most, almost like Walt Disney, just a genuine guy who loved everybody and did everything he could to help everybody. So, and he started this studio and just really kicked home big time with the Universal horror films. And there's a lot of great ones outside the monsters that we won't get too really deep into, but like the Black Cat and the Raven with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. I mean, it's not like, I'm sure most people have seen the newer, it is based off of the Edgar Allan Poe story somewhat. Bela Lugosi plays a doctor who's kind of gone mad and tries and commits these crimes in the shape of the crimes committed from the Raven, from the story. And it's got Boris Karloff in it, and man, when those two go toe-to-toe in it, it's epic. It's so good. Mm-hmm. But so they have got a lot of great ones, but then again, what we're talking about is the big the big dogs, the Universal monsters. So of course Hunchback of Notre Dame started, Phantom of the Opera started, The Cat and the Canary, man, that's another good one too. That if no one's seen, they really check. I can't remember what year that came out. That was
1927.
27. Yeah, that's a really, really good movie. Mainly because there's one scene in that movie, because it's like it got, if I remember correctly, it's got some comedic stuff. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but there's a scene where this guy's reading from this book. And it's in a library-like thing at this mansion, and like one of the doors opens up, and this hairy hand comes out and ends up getting him. And it's just like, I remember watching as a kid. I'm like, oh man, scared the crap out of me, and I loved it. But so you got, then the big guys started coming out. You know what I mean? So you've got Frankenstein and Dracula. Well, Dracula came first, 1931. Frankenstein followed very closely the same year. I think Dracula came out like at the beginning of the year, and Frankenstein was towards the end.
February for Dracula, November for Frankenstein.
There we go. So you had them. Then you had, of course, the Mummy came next, the Invisible Man, the Wolf Man, and then the Creature from Black Lagoon, in that order, if I'm not mistaken. Then you had in there different ones, because the Mummy had tons of sequels. Dracula had the Son of Dracula, Daughter of Dracula. You had all those. Frankenstein, of course, had the Bride of Frankenstein, which I think is the greatest.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Sequel. I think it's almost as good as the original Frankenstein. Bride of Frankenstein was absolutely phenomenal movie. Then, of course, Creature had 2 sequels. Wolfman had a couple ones too. Wolfman was one of the best. I mean, because you had such a huge cast for it with Claude Rains, and then you had Ralph Bellamy, Bela Lugosi, what's her name? Evelyn Ankers was in it, and then, of course, Lon Chaney Jr.'s in it. And apparently I found out from a listener today that Lon Chaney and Evelyn Ankers, in the movie, they hate each other. Like, they don't like each other. And apparently that's how they were in real life too. So I was like, oh, so their portrayal on screen just mimicked real life chemistry, which was interesting. So they came out and they went all the way into the 50s, but it was the 40s that got really interesting because they were huge. Every one of these movies I went through actually before we recorded this. Decided to watch a couple of them because I hadn't watched The Mummy in a while. With Boris Karloff, great movie. His role as Imhotep, he did such a good job. And then I watched Frankenstein. I love Frankenstein. That's probably still one of my favorite ones. We were talking, my wife, she finally watched Monster Squad the other day. Have you ever seen Monster Squad, Jay? You've never seen Monster Squad? How are you? You've seen Monster Squad, right?
Yes.
See, come on, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Monster Squad.
I'm not Tyler.
It's great. Well, no, Tyler would have been like, I've never seen it. So, Monster Squad was
I'm
great.
only 20 years old.
Yeah. Only 20. Monster Squad came out in the 80s, and it was done by Fred Decker. Monster Squad, I always tell everybody, is the Universal Monsters meets the Goonies, because it's really what it is. It is such a great, great movie. And I think everybody needs to watch that movie at least one time. It is so good. When my wife finally sat down and watched it the other day, and she was watching it, it gets to the end of it, and of course, Frankenstein actually ends up being one of the good guys and helps him stop Dracula and all that. Well, then there's that little girl that he befriends, and as he's starting to fly off into this portal, this black hole that sucks him in, the little girl's like, "Don't leave, Frank." It's a sad scene. It really is. And my wife was like, "Man, that's so sad. It breaks my heart." I'm like, "It is pretty sad, but it's a lot better than what he did to her in the original." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "He kills her in the original." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, in the original Frankenstein, like he goes to that little pond and there's that little girl there with the flowers, and they cut it out of the original one. You have to watch the restored version, but they throw the flowers in and the flowers float. And what was so terrifying in the original cut of the film is, he's just body parts. He thinks she can float too. 1931 picks up this little 6-year-old girl and throws her in the water and she drowns. And that's what causes the townsfolk to really come after him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was terrifying back then. It's still it's creepy now, There's like, they really did that? I'm like, yeah.
Just look at the flowers.
They end up, taking it out. But, they were great. And each one was different, I feel like. Especially when you look at the characters and the actors. Again, I could harp on Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff and Lon Chaney Jr. all day long. Or Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr., both of them. Because they all had their own things that made them great, just like most actors. But I remember catching a little bit of Dracula. I didn't get to watch it, but that scene when he's first coming out of his castle and the wolves are howling, and he's like, "Listen to the creatures of the night. What beautiful sounds they make," and like the way he talks. Bela Lugosi is just. You're just like, man, I could just listen to you talk all day. It's so captivating, and he did really, really well doing that as the role of Dracula, in which, I mean, you had the Dracula remake with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman, which Gary Oldman was a phenomenal Dracula, but Bela Lugosi, man, his deliverance was phenomenal in that movie. And you look at Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff, he's great as a monster. As Frankenstein's monster, he was flawless, man. I mean, he was so good. Even as the Mummy, I loved his portrayal as Imhotep. He did really, really good. He was creepier, I think, as Imhotep in some scenes. And then, of course, going back to the Raven, he's he's kind of the monster in the Raven that's used by Bela Lugosi. He's such a good actor, and he's got this stone face about him. That's just, you look at him even without makeup, and he's kind of a scary guy. He's got that look of just like, if I ran onto you out in the street, I would be quite terrified to actually run into him. So he was phenomenal. And then Lon Chaney and then Junior, of course. Lon Chaney, Family Opera. It's the greatest film of all time. I absolutely love that movie. It's the best movie ever. I think Lon Chaney was phenomenal in it. He did great special effects, but I love that movie because, and I think it's the best for me personally, of the Universal Monsters, because there's so much message in that keeps it alive and prevalent today, big time. I mean, one, you've got the Phantom, who they think he's this thing that he's really not. They think he's this killer and this monster and this evil thing that lurks in the opera house. And there are moments, like that he does utilize that to his advantage. Mm-hmm. The masquerade scene, which was awesome. Have both of you seen Family Opera, the original one? Mm-hmm. So remember the masquerade scene where it actually went to Technicolor and everything was red for him when he's in that? Oh man, that was, to me, I was like, this is absolutely epic. And he knew, Lon Chaney knew, hey, this scene's going to be in Technicolor. He knew how to captivate, knowing ahead of time there's going to be this color. They're going to see this. He knew how to emote through the screen so well. But so everyone there was afraid of him. They thought he was this monster, but he was in love with Christine Daae. And when it comes all down to it, to me, it's like they're afraid of the unknown and they're quick to judge. And we see that so much even up to today. I think it's very relevant as a social message, because you go all the way to the end of that movie when they chase him with pitchforks and all that stuff down to the bridge, and then he throws his hand up. And I think me and you've talked about it in silent monster films. Mm-hmm. I love that. I don't know if you remember me saying this. He throws his hand up, turns around, throws his hand up, right as they all come down, and they all freeze because they're frozen in terror. And he just opens his hand, and there's nothing there, and he just starts laughing. Because he gets that last laugh of like, and they kill him, but he gets that last laugh of going, I'm not what you think I am, and they kill him for being something he really isn't. And to me, there's just so many good messages in that movie I absolutely love. Yeah. Absolutely love it. And of course, still to this day, the reveal of his scene when he's down in the cellar or underneath the opera house and Christine takes off that mask is just it's so good, so good. But they're all good. But then you look at Lon Chaney's son, Junior, when he comes in and plays the Wolfman. I love werewolf films. I've never watched a werewolf film where I've sympathized with the werewolf other than the Wolfman, because he's such a sad guy. He portrays such a tormented person that when you watch the Wolfman, you're like, man, I don't want him to die, but I kind of do, because I don't want him to feel bad anymore. And Lon Chaney he had a way of emoting. He was very good. If he wanted you to connect to him and feel bad for the character he's playing, he could do that the drop of a hat. He's so good. Amazing actor. And then you go through, so in the 40s, it all came to a head for Universal because they knew they had all these winning things, big time. And of course, I do want to mention Claude Rains. Claude Rains was the Invisible Man, did a great job as Invisible Man. That's probably one of my least favorite of the Universal Monsters, but did really good. It's a great movie, tons of sequels. And then, of course, you got The Creature from Black Lagoon with Richard Carlson, who was a great actor from the 50s. And then you had Julia Adams, who, that woman was a great actress and absolutely beautiful. She did great in that movie. What I love about that movie is actually partially filmed in Silver Springs, Florida. And where the cave was and stuff, I've actually been down in that area, so I thought it was pretty cool. But I love The Creature because The Creature is a great love story more than anything else. And that one's just a phenomenal film as well. But so the 40s, they knew they had all these big hits, is when it came to the shared universe for them. When they did the first one was not House of Frankenstein. It was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Came out before House of Frankenstein. Yeah. So in that one, of course, you had Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney come together on screen, and it was absolutely awesome. Seeing Frankenstein fight the Wolfman was just super, super cool anyways, but they knew right then and there they started something great. And then here comes the rest of them. You had House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, then you run into the comedies. The Abbott and Costello decided to get in on this, and those were, I think, more my favorite than anything else was those films, because what was the first one? Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. That scene where they have to carry in Frankenstein. I don't know if anybody's seen it. When Frankenstein and
That's the first one.
When Frankenstein and Dracula get delivered, and they got to take the boxes that they're in to this museum and load them. This is the funniest stuff I've ever seen with Abbott and Costello. It's so good. So they went through and they did an absolutely amazing job with these films. And the Abbott Costellos were great. They did Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, meets the Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and The Mummy. I think were the 4 Abbott and Costello films they did.
Meet the Killer.
Well, I don't know if
that was the second one.
The second one, yeah. I don't think that one was a full blown. I mean, it was Universal, because Universal did the Abbott and Costello stuff, but I don't remember them having anybody. Was anybody big in that one? Karloff was. Who did he play in that one? Does it say? For those who before we've talked about it, Matt's the tech guy. So when I do the shows and spit off this information, it is coming from my head. But if we've got a question or need some details, Matt's got the laptop and he pulls up the cool stuff. So
yeah, because I don't think.
I don't think.
I got the point. Okay, no, I'm just kidding.
But true. But so they're great, and they've spun off movies since then. I mean, even recently, Universal's decided, hey, let's do a new shared universe, which kind of failed epically, but they started doing it anyways, and I love them. What's some of your all's favorite? Jason, let's go with you since you're guest. Who's your favorite of the classic Universal monsters?
Oh, it's going to be Dracula.
Bella's Dracula?
Yes.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Such a good deliverance. Why would that be your favorite? Shatner.
To be quite honest, I have no idea other than the fact that I was very young and I just enjoyed watching Dracula.
That is the best British William Shatner I've ever heard. I have
no idea where that come from either. If your spontaneous Shatner just caught me. I'm sitting here staring at you.
I looked down like, it was actually like...
Yeah, I'm sure it was 10 minutes ago.
It was
now seeing
3 minutes ago, my bad. He's got us twice. I love this. Awesome. This is going to be so much fun.
That's awesome.
I agree. I love Dracula's. Phantom's going to be my favorite. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't consider him sometimes in the classics because they really point to Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, and the Wolfman.
Right.
So if I had to pick those 4, it would be tough for me, but Dracula's really up there. I would probably honestly have to go with the Wolfman, only because I like werewolves, but Lon Chaney, man, he did a great job. But Dracula, that's tough because those 4 are so good. I love Dracula.
Yeah, I like Dracula too. I like the Frankenstein story though also. So
I think that's a great one.
I don't know.
Pick one. Just pick one.
I can't.
I couldn't.
Yeah, it's really hard to pick one. I mean, it's just like it really takes you back to a time of like when you actually are watching these. Like my mom was always like one of those who let me watch any horror film. Mm-hmm. Like she was just. It wasn't that she didn't care, but she just. It was I could watch any of them, like even the more modern ones, Halloween and Friday the 13th. Like I grew up watching horror films, and so it's just like when you're sitting here trying to decide which is the best. I think Dracula is because of the stigma to it, like it just carries on today.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I mean, I would agree with that too. Yeah, because I mean, it is impossible to pick between the 4. But I mean, if you have to go, yes, technically Phantom and Quasimodo or Hunchback came before. But it really started with Dracula, and Dracula was the biggest part, and he's probably the most iconic of all the characters. I mean, because there's definitely more Dracula films than there are Frankenstein or Wolfman. I mean, there may be more, well, no, werewolf films. No, I mean, vampires. Either way, Dracula, you've got vampires. More than any of them. And he just did, man, and I think it was really cool too, because if you look back at Nosferatu, in the 20s, 24 for Nosferatu, the silent film, it's the same story, but they were not allowed to do that. And so it was done illegally, but it was still a great film. But this was the first time that, Universal got the blessing from the Stoker estate to do the film. And I felt that they just, the delivery on all of it is so good.
Yeah, really good.
That's a really, really good one. So I have to agree with that, which is sweet. All right, so but now when we talk about the Universal monsters too, because I mean they're big, because you got Universal Studios Nights of Horror and stuff. You get to see them all the time. I mean, costumes, it's everywhere. It's Halloween time, so they're always going to be big and prevalent for that time of the year. But I mean, they're big money makers. Always have been big.
Oh, they are. I mean, one of my at Universal Orlando, which we like to go. I've been several times. Jason's been once. One of my favorite shows there is the horror makeup show, which they show you how to do how they did some of their effects, and I mean, so much fun. So much.
I would love to see that. Well, I mean, when we James,
sorry, there's just really good memories of that show.
Yeah, there is.
I'm sure
my wife attended
I was about to
that
say
show.
Had to be Angie. Something with Angie.
Yeah, the body parts and everything.
Yeah, I mean. What was it? They bring up this lady, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to show you they're going to cut your arm off or something like that." Was it? And this little boy in the audience, he's like, "Mommy, no, not my mommy," or something like that. And it was just so funny. But Angie's just freaking out just because there's fake blood on the table or whatever.
Man, I would love to go see that. I love that stuff. You know what I mean,
it's one of the best 30-minute shows or 45 minutes, whatever it is. It's great.
There's a newer documentary just came out. Not super new. I think it came out last year. It's called the Frankenstein Chronicles, I think maybe that's what it's called. And it's all about the art of special effects. Yeah. The practical stuff. That is one of the best documentaries I have ever seen. I absolutely love it. I've got it. I bought it and it's on the Plex. I mean, you guys got to go and watch it if you want. And it was on Netflix, I think, for a while. Phenomenal show. But I love that. Even when I was in the protest, when we were shooting our first music video and we're getting interrogated and we had to have the fake blood and stuff, how do we do that? We instantly went to how did they do that in Nightmare on Elm Street? Right. How did they do that in these movies? Because the practical effects of what they did in these films is phenomenal all the way. Absolutely loved special effects in these movies. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
No, I was trying to think of the Frankenstein Chronicles you was talking about. Are you talking about the one with Sean Bean in it?
No, not the movie. This is a documentary.
Okay.
It's called the Frankenstein something. It's dang it. Is it Frankenstein Complex? Frankenstein something. It's a documentary. I have to look it back. I cannot remember, but it's a great documentary about special effects.
Frankenstein Complex.
Frankenstein Complex?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what it's all about special effects, and it is absolutely
I use my brain.
You used your brain.
Google.
Called the map. Or the Macintosh.
The Mac, not Matt.
Return of the Mac.
Hey, you know what else Universal has?
What?
The Grinch.
You know what? No. Okay, Jason, we got you on the show. Let's get you thinking about this. We're going to do an episode. One of the episodes coming up, actually, we're going to do a segment on the Grinch for Dr. Seuss and for Matt. Because Matt loves it. And Matt does a lot, and I want to make sure that we got something that he can talk about that I can spend 10 minutes bashing him on, too, because it'd be more fun. What do you think about this? Well, that's the rest of your life. That you'll end up getting that, because Superman, no. He is not the best superhero. The Grinch.
Wait, before you ask your question.
Yes.
I'm in total alliance that Superman is the best.
Oh, my God.
Now, if that's going to deter your question, continue with your Grinch question.
Do you have Instagram? Did you see my comment earlier?
I have Instagram, but there's nothing going to deter me.
No, not being beat by Batman, Wonder Woman, Gog, Atlas, Lex Luthor, Muhammad Ali.
And yet he still lives.
Still because they feel sorry for him. The Grinch. We're going back to the Grinch, okay? Grinch on here. What do you think? Do you think, because this is my stance on it, it's cool to remake a movie, and there's remakes that are great. I think this one's too early, and it's completely pointless for this new Grinch film coming out, because one, the cartoon's a classic. The original classic is classic. That's fine. You go remake it. But Jim Carrey's performance as the Grinch, to me, was so good that it's really going to be hard to top until we get another generation or two down the line. To me, I don't see a point in there being another Grinch film, because the two that we've already had are absolutely unbelievable. Because that's high staples to live up to for this film. And I know, Doctor Strange is in it and stuff, but it just doesn't look that good to me. What do you think?
Okay, so your question is I'm like, I am totally not excited about the new
Yes!
Grinch movie.
He has redeemed himself from the Superman comment.
And I think I'm in the same line as you are. Like, I don't want to say it's too soon, but Jim Carrey just blew it out of the water, and I'm really not excited about the. I'll go see it. Don't get me wrong. I'll probably even like it, but I'm not excited about it at all.
I'm not. Like I don't know if I'll see it till it comes out on video, but I know Matt's excited.
I am very excited. I mean,
at least.
I mean, just a little. I mean, I would be satisfied if they keep putting little cartoons on Instagram with just the marketing. It's hilarious. It's just like today he's. I saw one the other day. He's playing the organ or something, piano or something, and Max is playing the drums. Mm-hmm. He just is like, no. And Max just walks away and hits a cymbal and walks off. I just think it's funny.
Well, now, since I took Tyler's place for tonight only, like, I took, he's the youngest one of y'all, but now I'm the oldest one of all of y'all.
That's true.
And so I have a little bit more of a negative outlook for the Grinch, the new one coming up, because I think they're just going to change too much of it. If dealing with Christmas and their little innuendos that they're going to add to it. Like Jim Carrey pushed it a little bit, but I actually told one of the boys the other day, I'm actually interested to see if they're even going to say the word Christmas in this movie at all.
I think they're going to.
Like, will it be edited? Like, I know they've been given some of it, but I've heard rumors that it's not even going to have the word Christmas in it.
It better have Christmas. Because, well, I was about to make a comment, and we keep politics out of the show, so never mind. We're just going to move on from that one. I think and hope they.
I wasn't trying to bring politics in. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to.
Right. If they don't say Christmas, even though I'm not a huge fan of Christmas, I'll drop it. Okay.
There you go. Matt loves that. You are the Grinch. That's why you like the movie so much.
I get called. I think I got called that today, actually. So it's not
nice. That's absolutely.
You know,
awesome.
I mean, I get posts by some of my friends or texts daily, almost daily, about Christmas stuff because it's coming up so soon. And
I bet it's like, hey, look, Matt, this is perfect for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And somebody sent me something today. It's like, hey, my mother-in-law just sent me this, and it was a picture of some kind of something about Santa or something. I was like, just drop it, please. Just leave me alone.
No more Christmas. So.
I'm over it already.
All right. So, any other final thoughts on Universal Monsters?
I mean, you're just talking old school because I don't know. You mentioned the new movies where they started with with Tom Cruise and The Mummy. Did you? That
was horrible.
That
was hard to watch.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser made that look bad.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed his movies too. Actually, I didn't much mind the new Mummy. I really didn't.
Which one?
As a movie,
the one with Tom Cruise.
The one with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's not horrible, but it's just I think
the only thing I didn't like is when the Dr. Jekyll
when Tom Cruise was on the scene. Because that was every bad part of the movie.
I mean, when the whole where they were going to the whole expanded universe with Dr. Jekyll and with Russell Crowe. I thought that was kind of cool.
I liked it,
but questionable also. But I thought if they expanded on it, it may have been better. But
yeah, I like that part of it. I didn't mind the change in the emo type story and making it about her instead.
I thought it was actually a really good story with the actual girl. Yeah,
it really was Tom Cruise for me. Yeah. He just, he cannot act anymore. I don't know what it is. He just can't
anymore.
He was great back then, but once he started his couch jumping days with Oprah, it's just like he just went downhill from there. Man,
he loves that woman.
Dude, he does.
Loved that woman. I guess I don't know.
Loved. Yeah, he no longer loved.
No, that Scientology craziness has put him. Who knows where he's at?
But I mean, I don't know. Well, The Invisible Man, they're redoing it. Did you know that?
Well,
it's not.
Everything's on hold.
Yeah, but
because of Tom Cruise and the Mummy.
Because it was
so bad.
Good.
But still, even Johnny Depp was on.
He was attached for it. They were going to do Bride of Frankenstein with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Creature from Black Lagoon was going to be one of the ones they really wanted to push. But of course, I don't even know if they should do that after Del Toro's Shape of Water, honestly, because I mean that movie's pretty much from a scene in Creature from Black Lagoon that inspired him to make the movie. And that movie, nominated for 13 Academy Awards, won 4 of them. Absolutely unbelievable film. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they were going to. Originally, they actually were technically they were going to start with Dracula Untold, which I know a lot of people give it a lot of flack. I love Dracula Untold.
I didn't see that one.
It was really, really good because, like, I mean, Dracula's story. I mean, Vlad sells his soul or whatever and becomes Dracula. The vampire, and it just gives him a dark origin. Well, in Dracula Untold, he still has that dark origin, but I love the way they did it because Vlad is not, in the beginning of the movie, he's king and he's trying to protect his kingdom, especially his wife and his child, and he has no choice at one point they're going to be killed, all of them. Everybody, his whole kingdom, empire will be killed, and he's worried about keeping them safe. He's promised he would keep his people safe. And there is a master vampire played by Charles Dance at the top of this mountain, whatever. And he goes and knows that's probably his only chance to get the power that he's got. But because of that, he pretty much sells his soul to save everybody. They put it as a sacrifice to paint him as a hero. So they really changed him more as a hero character. And I thought it was unbelievable. Like, I thought that movie was great. It was because you don't really ever get a different spin for Dracula. Dracula's Dracula. I thought it was a great spin. I thought he did phenomenal playing Dracula. I loved it. I thought it was really good. I thought it'd been a really good place to start, the new dark universe they were going to do. But we'll see how it goes because Tom Cruise and the Mummy ruined it. Definitely.
I'm thinking of Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. Just Tom Cruise, help!
Tom Cruise. I don't know. His last good movie was. He just doesn't do things like Top Gun and Days of Thunder anymore. He just doesn't.
Top Gun, man.
Top Gun's so good. We'll find out. He's going to do another one, so let's hope he doesn't ruin it. But anyways, time for. Unless anybody else got anything else. Anybody else wants to say anything about that one? Good.
I don't think so. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, it is Shatner time, which means it is time to try and stump the sludge with our special guest, Jason Murray. I love this game, man. That's going to be so good. I really hope he drops one when Matt's talking because I'm waiting for that.
You're just going to have to throw it in.
I'm like, he said Shatner. Yeah.
I was waiting for you to do it during the Grinch episode.
That would have been perfect timing.
Like, just hit him straight up.
All right, yeah, so since Tyler's not here tonight, Jason is going to try and take over the Stump the Sludge part with whatever questions you got. I don't even know how you've been writing. Do you have like 30 questions? Or
He's got like 2 pages of notes. I don't know what he's...
No, I don't.
It's our telling what's...
No, I don't. I really only have 2 questions.
Okay.
So the first one is if anyone's listening tonight or here in the future, that your love for Lon Chaney is unreal. So do you actually know Lon Chaney's full name?
Because it's not even Lon Chaney. Wait, Boris Karloff's name's not Boris Karloff. His is completely different. Lon's is... No, I do not. I do not know Lon Chaney's full name.
Wow. Lon is short for Leonidas.
Leonidas. See, I did not know that. Wow, I did not know
Leonidas Frank Chaney.
Okay, no, I didn't know it was Frank, but I did not know Leonidas. That's awesome. Leonidas, king of the Spartans.
I figured you would like that one.
That is great. Yeah. That's really good.
And just
Shatner.
For the second question, it goes along with the Lon Chaney Jr. I actually wanted to ask you about Lon Chaney Jr.'s full name, because Lon Chaney Jr. is just a stage name.
I do not know. I did not know Lon Chaney Jr.'s name. I did know he did change his name because of his dad, but I don't know his actual name.
Yes, he's not even a junior. His name is Creighton Tull Chaney.
Creighton Tull Chaney. I'm glad he went with Lon Chaney Jr. I really, really am. That's awesome. Leonidas.
Yeah, I figured you would like the Leonidas.
I really do. I like that a lot. I wish my mom would have named me Leonidas. It would have been great. Any other ones?
Yes, I actually have one more here. I was going to try to keep it a little bit simple for you. What year was it that the expedition found Imhotep's mummy?
Are we talking about in the movie?
Yes.
1920. It's the first British one where they start the film. They're in there. He's actually in the casket. 1920. Oh, is it 23?
I'm going to say no because the option is 1929 and 1921.
It's 29. 1929 is what it is. That is what it is. Because if you go when you watch the movie, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but it was the English expedition or whatever in camp, and they've got the year on over the door for each one. And it's 1929 for the first one, and then the mummy comes to life and takes the scroll and walks out, and then it's that professor's son is at the next camp when he shows up, and it's 1931 is when it's been.
So that's 0 for 3.
0 for 3 on that one. Yep.
Okay. You're welcome, Tyler.
It's Jason's last time on the show. No. That's cool because I love learning the Lon Chaney stuff. That's really cool. I like that. All right, we are moving on to the next topic, and that is console wars. So this is where we go into, this one is the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. It's arguably the biggest console war there ever was. Because at this point, I think when we continue on, because the next one after this, will be the GameCube, PlayStation 2, Sega Dreamcast. From there on out, there's really no difference, I think, between the systems, especially when Sega drops, because Sega had some really cool stuff with the Dreamcast that no one else was doing at the time. GameCube, its graphics just dominated that entire war, in my opinion. But from that point on, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and all that stuff, it's really just kind of a personal choice. There's no more bit war at that point. But this was the biggest thing, I think, for the entire console war. Really what is crazy is the time difference in release. Do you guys know when the Sega Genesis, or they actually call it the Mega Drive in Japan, when it came out? It actually came out in 1988. And the Super Nintendo didn't come out till 91 and 92. 91. It's different countries you're releasing. That's a long time for a 16-bit, because Nintendo was still selling so many original Nintendos and Famicons that they just didn't need to jump anywhere. But Genesis in 1988 decided it was time to get another system because the Master System just was not competing with the NES at all anymore. They dropped drastically in sales. So they said, okay, time for a new system. And the thing that they had done differently with the Genesis than they did with the constant upgrades between like the Mark III and the Master System, just the SG-1000, that whole, they just upgraded a little bit. They decided to do something really, really big. And of course, they jumped big time into the 16-bit system with a much faster processor. Actually, I think it's the same processor that was in the Apple II at the time. When it came out. So it was a blast processor. Actually, the processor in it is faster than the Super Nintendo's processor. They kind of lacklustered on the sound a little bit in comparison to the Super Nintendo, but they really jumped ahead for the first time for Sega. Like, they decided we're going to do something much cooler, much bigger. To the point that they changed the controller. They were the first company that actually changed to a more ergonomic controller, added an extra button, so you had 3 buttons originally instead of the 2. And then when the Mega Drive first came out, before they did turn to Genesis here, it actually had a headphone amplifier on it, so you could plug headphones into the system as well. So that way, your mom wouldn't have to constantly turn the TV down. I don't want to hear that, blah, 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 blah. You just plug your headphones in and you're good to go. They did make this system pretty cool because they left it open for upgrade options down the road, which they would need to continue to compete with the Super Nintendo. So Sega comes out 1988 in Japan, and then immediately the next year, 1989, they dropped the console in America, and then I think it was like literally the next year they start going everywhere else, Europe, and which for Sega, Europe definitely has always been a more prominent Sega market than Nintendo. Like, Sega's always dominated over there over Nintendo. And it's not been by much, a couple million sales, but they've always been big Sega, and Sega did great with Genesis. Now with this Genesis, obviously, they jumped into the 16-bit era. The graphics were a lot better than the Master System, and they were really running it. They had a small competitor at the time. I don't know if you guys remember the TurboGrafx 16. That didn't last long, but they did with the 16-bit, and they did really, really well for a little bit. But the cost of the system, the amount of games that they had available in comparison to Sega, was nowhere near enough to really keep going against Sega, or even the Nintendo Entertainment System had its 8-bit graphics. So they ended up dropping out of the game pretty early. But the sales ended up raising for the Sega Genesis enough in Japan, and the introduction of the PC engine by another company, that Nintendo's sales were starting to drop. And so Nintendo said, okay, enough's enough. It's time to get out another system. And here comes the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo, it was, 16-bit system, just the same, came out 2 years later. And there was the Super Famicom in Japan, Super Nintendo here, two different looking for the systems. Again, they have two completely different redesigns. The SNES was designed, again, by, can't remember his first name, Yamura is his last name, Masayuki Yamura.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if you had the brain going over there. But the guy who designed the original Famicom.
Say it if I did anyways.
The designer of the original Famicom was brought back, because I think he was retiring at the time, but was brought back to design the Super Famicom, or the Super Nintendo, and did a phenomenal job. It doesn't have as fast as a processor as the Genesis. Actually, honestly, the Genesis really kind of has, spec-wise, the better numbers than the Super Nintendo did, even though it came out 2 years earlier. But Nintendo did it; they were smart about it. First off, they did a better dual sound chip. So they had two sound chip processors in it, so they can run true stereo, 16 channels, and the sound quality was way better than the Genesis. But that's not the biggest and most important thing. The biggest and most important thing, obviously, is going to be the video graphics. That's what they want to compete with. While the processor in the Genesis ran slightly faster than the Nintendo's processor and the way they handled the RAM in it was able to actually have more sprites and colors on screen than the Sega could. The Sega could only have somewhere around 60 or 70 sprites, like moving objects on screen at one time, where the Super Nintendo could have like 80 to 90 sprites at one time. The Sega had, I think, like 60,000 colors, and then, or 30,000 colors, something like that. The Nintendo could almost double that, except when it comes to Sonic. For some reason, the Sonic games just always looked great on that. But with the design that they used for the chip that Nintendo had the capabilities to actually render 3D sprites in a 2D engine. And that's really because Nintendo went well on into the 32-bit era for the Super Nintendo before the 64 came out. They went well on into the sales when Sega was releasing the Sega CD, this 32X, the Atari brought the Jaguar out. You've got all these other companies bringing out 32-bit systems, and Nintendo's still rocking the 16-bit Super Nintendo because of that graphics chip. And so what they end up doing is Rareware, who brought us Donkey Kong Country. They also helped design the graphics for Super Mario RPG. Those first 3D games that we actually got was because of that graphics chip. And of course, it doesn't help that, obviously it had the better graphics. It had, again, the better library of games or characters. While Genesis did come out and they did have the awesome blue hedgehog of Sonic, he just still wasn't Mario. Just still couldn't compete with him. Sega in that year that Nintendo came out, when Sega's first year, they sold, I think it was they took them 12 months to sell 1.6 million units. When the Nintendo dropped in America in, I think it was August, no, it was later than that. They had 4 months left of the year. When they dropped the Super Nintendo in America, they sold 1.6 million units in 4 months, compared to the 1.6 million that Sega sold all year long. So, it was a huge, huge difference, which the Sega was a lot closer this time around because they sold over 30 million units of the Genesis worldwide in its run. Still didn't quite touch the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo had, 40, almost 50 million. It was 47.5 million, something like that. So, it was closer than the Master System and the Super Nintendo, or the regular Nintendo, definitely. But still just could not quite cut it. No, I think it was 40-something million. It was almost 50 million units that Super Nintendo sold. So it was a lot closer. But, the Super Nintendo was Super Nintendo, man. They absolutely killed it. The Super Nintendo, when it hit the market in Japan, they'd pre-sold 1.5 million units. The launch day, they only had 300,000 available. They sold out of all 300,000 units in 2 hours. And it was oh no, what do we do? So, but spec-wise, Sega is a little bit, on paper, the better system. in performance, even though it's not as good, the Super Nintendo outperformed it graphically, especially sound-wise, too. The sound was a lot better. And I think a lot of it helped, too, was the proprietary video connection we saw introduced on the Super Nintendo that they used for the Super Nintendo, the 64, and the GameCube, that AV output connector they had. That was, I mean, of course, it's Nintendo proprietary, and that helped a lot as far as the transfer and the amount of colors that they could send to the actual TV itself. So on top of that, I mean, it just performed better. Everything ended up looking better. You had a better library of games. I mean, you're talking about when the Super Nintendo first launched, some of the very first title for it was F-Zero. F-Zero spawned some of the greatest. I mean, we wouldn't have the Wipeout series or some of the futuristic racing games that we have if it wasn't for F-Zero. Then Super Mario World, the sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3. Then you've got Pilot Wings, which was great. If we didn't have Pilot Wings, we would have a lot of games that came later, like Panzer Dragoon. But then quickly you had Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Final Fantasy 2, well, technically 4 or whatever it was. You had all these great games that were available really, really quick. The Genesis had great games with Sonic, Echo, Altered Beast, but it just didn't have as many. The problem with it was, I think, was again the graphics. A great example is Doom. They released Doom for Super Nintendo and for Genesis. The Super Nintendo version just ran better. It sounded way better, and it was a brighter colored game. And I think that was the biggest fault for it, was those two. So sales-wise, though, absolutely dominated it. The Super Nintendo killed the Genesis. Even though Sega tried their best, they decided, hey, let's do the 32X. Brought 32X. Problem with that is they didn't really bring out a lot of games for it, which actually, I think Doom was on the 32X versus the Super Nintendo's 16-bit version, to tell you which one was even better at that point. But then again, Genesis did something that Super didn't, and they really grew a fan base, and this is something that really me and Dad got into, was they were able to get away with a lot of things that they didn't care to, where Nintendo would not. Example would be the Mortal Kombat series. For the Mortal Kombat series on the Sega Genesis, you had the blood effects, big time, just like you did the arcade games, because that's really what Sega was great for, was arcades anyways. But so, you had the fatalities that were bloody. Even RoboCop versus Terminator, way bloodier on the Sega Genesis than it was the Super Nintendo, because Nintendo didn't want that. They were a family system. So when you play the Mortal Kombats, or even RoboCop vs. Terminator on Nintendo, you don't have the blood. You don't have all that intensity that the Genesis had. So I think the Genesis, one of the things that really helped make it successful, despite lacking the great properties in games like Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Final Fantasy, all these great Super Nintendo games, Donkey Kong, is the Genesis found a niche that Nintendo wasn't exactly neglecting, but they weren't entertaining. And I think it was that teenager, high school kid area, who they wanted the bloody games. They wanted, if I'm going, and I can remember as a kid, especially if, I noticed when I go to the arcade and I played Mortal Kombat, any of them, I love doing the fatalities, because as a teenager, like, oh man, look, I just ripped his spine out of his back or whatever. It wasn't the same for Super Nintendo, but it was for the Genesis, and I liked that. But there were certain aspects to it that made, for me as a high school teenage boy, I loved the Genesis so much for. Of course, for me, I think one of the greatest games ever made and the hardest game ever made is Altered Beast, and that's strictly for the Genesis. That game, 5 levels of just... We were talking about this on one of the earlier console wars, talked about the differences between modern gaming and classic gaming, how you had 3 lives, no save spots, and if you died, you could start back from the beginning. Altered Beast was exactly that. You had 3 lives, 5 levels. That's it, 5 levels. It is the hardest 5 levels ever to get through. I mean, ever. But it's a phenomenal game. Great game. What about you guys? What did you all like about the two systems? Because I think I've pretty much spilled out about as much information as we can get for the console war on these.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, even though you're here talking about all the...
Nimoy. That's what Pete... It's Shatner time, Matt. It's your Shatner, but he says Nimoy instead. Shatner! Can you do Nimoy?
Please do Nimoy.
All I think about is Sheldon from Big Bang Theory when Penny gives him the this signed napkin. Is that right? For Christmas, and he brings her everything that he bought her for Christmas.
He keeps bringing it.
He just keeps coming. Oh, jeez. Beam me up, Scotty. I don't know what to say.
It's not logical.
It's not logical. It's Shatner, man. It's Shatner, Matt. You got to run with it. Run with it.
I done lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
I don't even know. We were going into the Super Nintendo stuff.
Oh, yes, that's correct. And we were talking about...
Yes.
It's so bad, man. Oh, so bad.
Oh, man. This is great.
This is hilarious.
I love this game. This is going to be great. Okay. So, Super Nintendo. No, you don't do Shatner no more.
I don't even know what I was talking. Oh, okay. No, I was you're here talking about all the technical aspects of both systems, and I think what it really came down to was just the games, what you hinted to at the very end, where I can remember going and getting my mother to buy Mortal Kombat, and she really had no idea what it was about.
That was my mom.
And what was funny was, what's even weirder was that it was at Sears in the Bristol Mall, which is no longer existent anyways. But I remember having to go there to buy a lot of the games. But yeah, you had Mortal Kombat, but also me and a buddy I grew up with, we played World Series Baseball. It was 1995. Yeah. There's a high fly ball. Speaking of Shatner, it's totally his voice on there.
There you go.
High fly ball deep to left. And, that's how the guy talked. But it was, you could play against each other and it was fun, and what was Streets of Rage or something like that.
Streets of Rage was great.
And
great
so,
game.
Just the games in general for Sega.
NBA Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's on
Term
fire!
Edition. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Nintendo had the Madden series, but they didn't have NBA Jam.
Right, yeah. The games for Nintendo were great because we had both systems at home, the SNES and the Sega Genesis. But I don't know which one we played more because we played them a lot, both systems a lot, but we played them a long time too. When we talk about these things, the older systems that lasted forever. I was looking up the Sega. They just ended production in 1997, so that's 9 years for the Sega Genesis.
88 to 97. Jeez,
that's a long time.
Yeah.
This year, these days, is what, 3 at most?
At most.
So that's crazy. But
they don't make them the same.
I don't know if I could pick a winner. If I had to pick a winner,
we're going to have to.
We've got to. We do that every one. Let Jason talk about it. But I don't know exactly.
I'm with you. It's tough.
But anyway, I think it just come down to the games is what for me what it ultimately come down to.
You know what's the best thing to do? Just to have them both. I got the SNES Classic loaded with Genesis and Super Nintendo games at the house. It's best of both worlds. I love it. I literally went the other day from playing Altered Beast, but then I got too loud, so my wife made me turn it off, to playing, to going and playing, I think, like Super Metroid or something.
Right. Yeah.
Man, I will throw some furniture for Altered Beast. That game is so hard. It's so good. You get to be, Jason, if you've never played it, you've got to check it out. It's really good. You're, and a lot of people have probably played it, but that's listening, but it's like set in like Greek mythology. And Zeus brings you back from the dead to save this princess. And each level, there's only 5. You get power-ups, and as you power up, you become another being. So in the first level, you become a werewolf. Second level, you become a were-dragon. Third level is the were-bear. Fourth level is were-tiger. And then the 5th level is the golden werewolf. And it is such a good game. But man, getting to that 5th level, I've never beat this game, ever beat this game.
Wow.
And I've got to the 5th level a few times, but when I get there, I'm usually on like my last life, and I'm just like, it's going to get hairy in here because, man, you can't save, you got to restart. And I'm not one of those guys that played on a ROM and like save state it so I can restart from there. I can't do it. I've been working since the 80s to beat this stupid game, and I still have never beat it. It's so good. But I will. I'll throw a couch. Not at anybody, but it's a frustrating game. It's so good. It's worse than Jaws for Nintendo, and that was hated that game too.
Rambo for Nintendo was pretty tough.
Rambo was tough. There's another one coming, right?
Yeah.
Yep. What's it called? Last Blood, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is better than what it was originally going to be. Originally, it was going to be Hunter, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. He bought the rights to this book called The Hunter, or just Hunter, and it's about this guy who fights up against this primordial type beast thing. Oh, and
it's not what Rambo is.
No. Thankfully, he decided not to do that, and he's doing this, goes up against the Mexican cartel. It's going to be cool, but he does have the rights to that book, and he says he is making it a movie. And he's starring in it, so we're still going to see Rambo fight, but it won't be a Rambo film. So, anyways, Jason, what about you? Sega, Super Nintendo. Give us what you think.
Well, just for a little bit of my background on the, I had the SNES, but mostly only played Sega Genesis with my friends. I would always go over to their house or whatever and hang out and play. Even up when I first got married, a friend of mine moved into the same apartment complex we did, and so if Angie was going to work, I'd go over there and we'd play. And we'd play so much, and it comforts me knowing that you throw furniture, because we used to get fighting mad at each other. Like, just like, and he'd be like, "You can't play no more. Like, leave." I'd be beating him at NBA Jam, or something, and so for me,
my dad too. Violent.
For me, even going back even earlier, I had the Nintendo, and a friend of mine, when I was in the 4th grade, got the Sega down the road, and we'd go down there, and everything was cooler. It just seemed better. I'm not saying it is better, but just because I never owned it and actually got to enjoy it on my own time, I'm probably going to lean toward the Nintendo part of it for me. But the games, Matt talked about the World Series.
Yeah.
That was the first game Sega brought out that it had the behind the catcher view in baseball.
Yeah, that was so good.
And that was and so little things like that are pretty awesome. But still probably going to lean toward Nintendo.
It's hard for me. I remember, and my dad couldn't make it tonight because he had car troubles. But I wanted him for this one because we would spend time as a kid. We'd go to my uncle's house. I think I told you guys a little bit earlier about tell the listeners. And they would play a game called Top Gear. Actually, they played F-Zero, Super Mario. We played all the games, and that's my Uncle Dan had one first, so we'd go there before we got ours because we had the Sega, and which I love the Sega. But of course, eventually we got the Super Nintendo. But we'd go over there, and it was like they would beat me at every game, especially Top Gear. But here I am, I'm a young kid, 10, 12, whatever years old, having fun playing with my dad and my uncle. I'm all happy. Woohoo! I get to play with my dad, my hero, and he's stomping me in the ground at this racing game and making fun of me. And it's like, you loser. I mean, it was hardcore, calling names. Like him and my Uncle Dan, they would just cuss each other like dogs at that game. And they would just do it to me too. If I'm gonna hang with them, they're gonna treat me the same way. And that's which I was telling Sarah the story before, and I'll play Xbox with my sons, and we'll play Serious Sam, and they'll play, and I'll just annihilate them, and I don't even think twice. And they're like, "Dad, let us kill you once." I'm like, "Tough it out. You can be a man about it. Don't whine." And Sarah's like, "Why do you do that?"
Poor guy.
Gavin's good. He's actually getting good. Colton's getting mad because he can't beat him. Gavin's actually getting really good at it. And but Sarah, I told her that story. She's like, "That's why you're that way to the boys." I'm like, I didn't think about that. Yeah. It's going to make them better video gamers.
That's one of my with my boys, Micah and Caleb. Like growing up, I can't think of the name of the game, but it's the DC. Is it Mortal Kombat or
DC versus Mortal Kombat, or there's Injustice.
Like we would play that a lot, and I would wear them out, and they would start doing the storylines, and then they'd come and get me to finish it off or something like that because they couldn't get over the last hurdle. But it wasn't too long after that mostly Micah. Micah and Caleb, they would start getting to where they could come even with me and start beating me. And it's probably the last time I've played with them because that game's probably 4 to 5 years old.
Yeah, it's not too old.
And now it's all these other video games, the modern Call of Duty and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't even bother because
Fortnite.
I don't even bother. But I never trash talked them like your dad did you. Like I could
I do
never
my
do
sons.
that. Like
Totally.
we might have a little sarcasm in our house, a little bit. But no, once they started getting even with me, I totally backed up.
Oh man, well I got my revenge and still do to this day with my father because we played for many years on that, and I never could beat him at Top Gear. And we played other games, and I might beat him at it, but it was always Top Gear because that's what burned in my head with them was constantly just dog beating me at that game and then talking trash about it. I ended up years later losing, getting rid of my Nintendo, got a new one, and I bought Top Gear and I memorized. And that's no joke. I know where every rock in the road, every tumbleweed in the desert tracks. I know every curve to every map on the first Top Gear. I know most of Top Gear 2 as well. But I studied it, never told my dad. Wouldn't say a word at all. He lived in Indiana at the time, and I was like, he was coming down and we, to hang out, and I'm like, hey man, let's play some Top Gear. Without thinking, my dad's like, yeah man, I'll kick your butt, blah blah blah. Just trash talking instantly, like it was 10 years prior. He has not beat me since that one day. 1385 Knowing Loop in Talbot, Tennessee was the house that I owned where we played that game. First time I beat him, and then it hasn't changed since. And we play a lot. We'll play that game over and over again. He cannot beat me whatsoever, and I absolutely love it. And I gloat. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably terrible, but I gloat in my victory every time because I'll get to where I'll pass him now. Oh, that was totally off track on that one. I'll gloat in all of my victories. I treat him like the red shirt that he really is. Anyone get the red shirt reference? Please tell me somebody out there will get the red shirt reference.
I know. One time I'm gonna be like, what is it, Sal off Impractical Jokers and just fall out of my chair laughing when that happens. He always falls.
Just be slapping stuff on the way down.
I love that show.
Those guys are awesome.
All right, so yeah, it's hard to pick. All right, so are you going with Super Nintendo, Jason?
Yes, I'm going Super Nintendo.
Matt. We never solved one from the last one. We've got to get a winner on this one.
I know. Did the online audience ever reply?
Nope.
No.
Well, not enough.
There was a certain wager that went on in this room.
There was,
and
Oreos and Venoms, and it's not happened because we've not declared a.
She's got lucky then.
Jason's here. You be the winner right here on this episode.
Okay. Yeah.
Nintendo 64, the first Sony PlayStation, or the Sega Saturn. Well, it boiled down to the 64 and the PlayStation. So, just those two. Which system in the console wars would you say was better and the winner between the 64 and the PlayStation 1?
Sony PlayStation.
Yes, Tiffany, you listen to this episode. That makes Sony the winner. I'll take my Venoms the next 2 Sundays. Thank you, Jason Murray. I'll give you the $20 later for that. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't give any money. Tiff doesn't think so. All right, 64 and PlayStation got the winner. PlayStation 1, boom, that's said and done with. Super Nintendo Genesis. We got one Super. This is tough.
Man, it's a hard one. Okay.
Like I'm trying to think of games too.
I am too. Did Mario Kart come out for Super Nintendo?
Yes.
Yeah, Super Nintendo.
That's tough. Yeah, I didn't think about that. The Mario Kart.
That's a real good one.
Because when that game came out, that's all we played.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it didn't matter what Sega had. It was Mario and on a cart.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
On a go-kart. Yeah. I mean,
that's all you needed right there.
I mean, yeah, Super Nintendo.
I'm gonna have to go. I mean, like when I stop and think about it, because I'm like, okay, Legend of Zelda, phenomenal game.
Yeah.
But then I go back and go look and go, Flashback Quest for Identity for the Genesis is one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. And you got Altered Beast. But then you got Super Mario World, and you got Super Metroid.
I mean, but even games, Sonic the Hedgehog was a great game.
Oh my gosh, it is.
It was such a great game.
That's why this is the greatest of the console wars. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But it is really hard to pick a winner because, I mean, like, I want to say Nintendo, but I really want to sit there and go, okay.
Yeah.
It's hard. This would be so much more interesting if it was 1991 right now. You know what I mean? Like, which one do we go with? It's like, because we're still getting the fresh games. Man, it's difficult because, I mean, man, Altered Beast, Genesis has the one game I've played and never beaten. To me, that's huge. That's really huge. Because I just can't handle it's Shatner time. That I cannot beat this game. It is the hardest 5-level game I've ever seen. Oh, it's epic. It's so good. This is great. But Super Metroid and I'm going to go Super Nintendo. Chrono Trigger. Did y'all ever play Chrono Trigger?
No.
First RPG game where it actually involved time travel. And it opened up, like those movies that you watch where it's like, Pulp Fiction or Memento, where it's scattered across time. Like it doesn't start, it's non-linear. It's non-linear. Chrono Trigger was the first non-linear RPG, and it was just epic. Like I just gave my life away for Chrono Trigger when it came out.
What else they had on there?
What?
Star Fox.
Tiffany Star Fox. Yes.
We talked about that last time.
I didn't think about because I didn't care for Star Fox.
I didn't either.
It was
never even heard of it.
I remember seeing it, but I'm like Star Fox, whatever. It's like
I did see that was one of the best-selling games for the Super Nintendo.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Man, I just can't imagine that. When you look at like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, all that's I can't. No way. So, all right, Super Nintendo, it wins. I think that's everyone's favorite. It's just hard, man, because that's so close. Even the sales said, barely 10 million, sales and units difference for Sega. They really climbed the ranks with that, I think.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest competition for Nintendo up until, the PlayStation came out.
Yeah.
Which is that's their own fault. We talked about the last one, Jason. I don't know if you got the chance to listen to it or not, but the PlayStation was actually made for the Super Nintendo. It was going to be a CD add-on. Sony had done a deal with Nintendo, and they were going to bring it out. They actually made like 2 or 3 copies, and some dude in like Vegas found one for $75 at an auction, like one of the actual working test things, and it works. Cool. I remember watching it on YouTube. I was like, "That's awesome! Like I'd buy that for millions of dollars." But at the last minute, they pulled everything on Sony and went with Philips for CD stuff, and Sony said, "Fine, we'll just turn it into our own console," and came out the PlayStation, which is just awesome. One of the best systems ever. So
yeah.
All right. Well, next up is Q&A with Matt. It is that time. I think we got just a couple questions, right?
Yeah, we just got a couple. And since we're just coming out of the Sega topic, this is from Justin. What, in your opinion, are the possibilities that we'll ever see an Altered Beast or Streets of Rage film released?
Well, Altered Beast, man, never. I would love that because that is one of. it's ranked one of the greatest Genesis games
when he
ever.
beats the game.
When I beat the game, yes,
he will write the script.
I will get it done. Well, hey, we got Street Fighter and that was garbage,
Yeah.
So I would love to see an Altered Beast, but I don't think Altered Beast would ever happen. Streets of Rage. That's a pretty good property.
Yeah,
but I don't see that being.
I don't either.
It's
kind of like saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna." Did they ever do a Sonic movie?
No, they're going to.
Okay,
they're doing a Sonic movie.
You think that would come first before something else like that?
If you want a Streets of Rage movie, just turn the news on to Washington, and there you go. You got that all day, every day. So
it doesn't matter who's there.
Just flip it on like, oh, we're going back to the second Genesis stage right here on Capitol Hill. So I don't ever go there. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. I couldn't help it.
You need a buzzword to stop you from going into.
My bad.
Shatner.
We will not talk about political things on this show. I love it. I don't. Justin, no. I would love an Altered Beast movie because I'm all big into Greek mythology movies and I love monster flicks, and that would be great. Plus, that game has just tormented me since 1980, whatever.
Got an idea. Write a movie about your life. And your nightmares will involve Altered Beast. That would be. I could make a great movie out of that. There you go.
That would be awesome. That would be good. Just like a mix of The Wizard. Remember The Wizard? Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
Do like that with Nightmare on Elm Street. Mix the two. But Altered Beast. That would be great. That'd be really good. Anyways, next question. What we got?
And I don't know if anybody. I don't remember any of this. But it says. Do you guys remember those black and orange hardback library books with the Universal monsters in them? They had Drac, Frankenstein, a Wolfman creature from Black Lagoon.
Ian Hawthorne's. Yes.
And they also had King Kong and Godzilla ones. He's just asking if we remember those. It's not really a question, just kind of saying, hey, do you remember those things?
I think
I don't.
I do. Oh, yeah.
I don't.
That Godzilla book is, it's expensive. Like, really expensive now if you find a copy. I think it was Ian Hawthorne. What was his name? I remember those. Dude, I remember reading...
No. He is asking. He said, what were they called? Who distributed them? And where could someone find them?
Man, you can find them on eBay. I know that because I've looked for the Godzilla one. I am trying to remember what they were called and the author's name.
Orange and Black Books.
Orange and Black Books. Yeah, they had Creature from Black Lagoon, The Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein, King Kong, Godzilla. They had several of them, man, and they were great books. They actually did, and Justin, just so you know, they did a reissue of them, and instead of being orange and black, they came back out and they were green and black. A reissue, like a second print series they did as well. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Jason, that's it right there. Yeah, who's the author?
Ian Thorne.
Ian Thorne. I would say Ian Hawthorne, is that what I said?
That's what you, yeah.
Okay, Ian Thorne. Close enough. But what they called? What was the series? Famous Monsters or
Monster Series?
Monster Series is what it is. Because you can probably find it on Amazon, honestly.
It's what this is on.
How much is that going for? Jason's pulled up the Godzilla book.
It's only 20 cents, man. Sorry.
No way. There's no way.
I don't know. I just come up with a number.
Shatner.
I just come up with a number. I don't know.
I'm loving the Pete just takes off. Like that's probably the last one for the episode. I'm like down. I'm like, here comes Shatner.
On Amazon here, used acceptable is going for $3,200
for the Godzilla. I told you, man.
It's hard. Paperback's only $483.
Only, but that's one of those where you got to have the hardback. Because I remember checking that out. That King Kong one, I hated the cover of because it's from the '76 film. It's a terrible cover, but even though that was actually a pretty decent remake. But the Godzilla one, I checked out the Godzilla one, Frankenstein and the Creature from Black Lagoon in 6th grade at Westview Middle School in Morristown, Tennessee. And I did not want to return a Godzilla book. I really debated, will I go to jail if I steal this book? You know, because my mom was super religious to the point it was hey, if you, she was just over the top sometimes, which it's not bad to be over the top, but she was over the top, Stryper will send you to hell, so it was one of those. But anyway, so I was I couldn't do it. I kept thinking about it, I could not do it. But was that?
Oh, that makes so much sense now.
You didn't know that? That's the only reason I recognized it. Have you ever read Andy Stanley's It Came From Within? He copied that series from the Monsters, and he's talking about the monster within. And so he made his book cover off of those series.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
No, those books they're great books. But I will say this also, Justin, just so you know, to finish up answering your question, I'm not 100% sure about the Dracula ones or the Frankenstein ones, but I do remember that Godzilla one vividly because I'm such a fanatic anyways.
Yeah, they're all on Amazon. I'm going to post the link.
Oh, perfect. So Justin, you'll see the link on there.
Post the Godzilla one just so
that's insane. $3,000.
$3,000, and that's used.
That's used. I mean, I won't lie. If I had $3,000 to blow, I'd buy it.
But yeah, I mean, they have the King Kong is only $25.96 right now.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's used. One new from $3,000.53.
Wow. What's a used Dracula going for?
There's Dracula. The one here is $29.94.
So it's that Godzilla one. That Godzilla one.
But see, the paperback in this one is saying from $723.
I didn't even know they made paperbacks of those. I didn't. I had no idea. That Godzilla one, though, is awesome. But so, Justin, on that Godzilla one, it is an awesome book because it's got a lot of really cool pictures in it. Very, very, very wrong on a lot of information. Very wrong. There's a lot of stuff in there that I'm no, this is incorrect, and that's incorrect, and oh yeah, this is incorrect too. But still a really good book. So Justin, they were the Monster Series, Ian Thorne, and you can find them on Amazon. And Matt's going to throw the link up on the Facebook page for you as well. And do we have any other questions?
Let me see. I think I had one more. Let's see. Okay, we've already touched on this. But if you want to go back and address it, we can. But it says, do you think that we will ever see the Bat in Arrowverse?
We did kind of touch on it.
Yeah.
There's always that wishful thinking side. And I think if the numbers go good with Gotham, as far as the season 5 comes out in January, it's the last season of Gotham. They have announced we will see Batman on screen for the first time since the 60s in the season finale for that show. If the reaction is more than what they were hoping for, and the reaction for Kate Kane being Batwoman does extremely well enough to where she gets the show, I do think we will finally see Batman back on the silver screen. Because for whatever reason, DC is super touchy about Batman on the silver screen versus Batman on the big screen, that they just will not let loose. So I think they're testing the waters. I think they're pleasing the fans by giving us Batman at the end of Gotham, since it's coming to an end, and then testing the waters with Batwoman and Kate Kane character. So yes, I think we have good possibility of seeing Batman on the big screen at least within the next 5 years. And he would be in the Arrowverse, because I think if the only people that Jeff Johns would trust putting Batman in would be Berlanti. Like, he would put it in his hands.
See, I don't know. I really don't know, because they just launched their streaming service. Are they going to put him on over-the-air TV, or are they going to push him on their paid subscription service?
I think they'll do, well, I don't know. Because they can do either. But then again, look at Titans. Like, I don't know if you guys seen Titans yet?
Mm-hmm.
The first episode was awesome. Absolutely awesome. I loved it. Berlanti.
Right.
Berlanti and the crew. I mean, he's overseeing all of it for him now. At least, what would be the Arrowverse. So, I mean, there's possibility even there of crossing Titans over in the future with Arrowverse. You know what I mean? Because they do all live underneath that same hood. The only one that they haven't completely said isn't is Black Lightning. But the rest of them are. You know what I mean? So Swamp Thing, Berlanti's kind of overseeing that as well. And so I think that they've got the people. I just don't know why that Jeff Johns is not willing to greenlight him on TV for a full series. I think it'd be great. I think it's possible, though. I think that's what I really do. That's what I think they're doing, is they're moving to the possibility of bringing in the Bat finally.
Or there even could be some limitations as far as with Fox, I guess, and waiting for Gotham to finish out. Maybe, I don't know, before they can do anything with
That's
it.
true,
I don't
legalistically.
know. Yeah. I mean, just relating to television, not necessarily any other type of media.
I mean, I think they're getting too deep not to bring him in. You know what I mean? He's been mentioned in the Arrowverse multiple times now. And yes, we got the the multiverse and the different Earths, and Elseworlds is coming. So I mean, we can have Batwoman without having to have Batman. But Bruce Wayne has been name dropped because Batman
You got him.
is the greatest superhero of all time. You just can't keep him off the screen. Yes, one more Shatner right
What
there.
a great game.
I love it. I do. I don't think you can keep him off the silver screen for much longer, because he's been name dropped multiple times in the Arrowverse. You've got Batwoman coming. You got Gotham. But then now you've got Titans this is how severe Batman is. He is talked about multiple times in just episode 1. Mentioned, by the cops, mentioned by criminals. And then you've got Jason Todd showing up in a future episode. And they even make jokes and quips about Jason being able to drive the Batmobile. And, and Dick's like, he lets you drive the Batmobile? You know what I mean? He's there in Detroit because of Bruce. So, you've got way too much across the board, in my opinion, to not bring him on the screen finally.
I know. Well, that's one of my favorite scenes in Batman vs. Superman, is the beginning when the cops go into that building and the people are scared to death. They're like pointing upstairs and they walk upstairs and he's just up in the corner.
I love that
scene.
scene.
That is so amazing. So good.
Because Affleck's the best Batman. He's there.
I mean,
it's him and Keaton. Him and Keaton are the best, in my opinion.
It was great. To me, I'm a Zack Snyder fan anyways.
Oh yeah.
And I think he had a lot to do with that darkness in the Bat, in
Well, he delivered
Batman.
the Frank Miller Batman very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think better than anybody else. When you go back and look, and now we're kind of just shooting off topic because we can do that. When you look at Tim's Batman, I mean, he pulled so much from The Dark Knight, The Killing Joke, even a little bit from Hush. You know, those 80s storylines with Neil Adams and all them. Yeah. That there was so much pulled from that when I look at Mike playing Batman, which Mike's my favorite Batman. When we split the two up between Bruce and Batman, Michael is my favorite Batman. He's not my favorite Bruce, but he's close. Ben is my favorite Bruce, and then one of my favorite Batmans. You know what I mean? So I mean, they're those two are the closest. But when you look at Tim's, there was so much from that '80s Frank Miller and Neil Adams in that era that I felt like Zach pulled from that better than Michael did and Tim did. I mean, just with Affleck's performance was killer. Absolutely killer.
Yeah.
Martha, why'd you say that name? Yeah, oh man, it's so good. I loved it. I mean, the only thing I disliked about that was when you read, The Dark Knight Returns or watch The Dark Knight Returns, however you do it, is the line. There's that one line, which is what will always make Batman better than Superman, in my opinion, is the one line when he's got Clark down there, because they've beat each other to a pulp, in the Dark Knight Returns book itself, I mean, you've read it. I mean, it was brutal between the two. But when he's right there on the ground, in his face, gray-haired and everything, he's like, I just want you to remember, I'm the one man who beat you. Like, that to me was just... That was it. That was the line. It's like, I don't care who beats Superman. Bruce Wayne beats Superman. It was, it's epic. And Oliver Queen did it too with one arm. But, let's not keep talking about Superman being the best because,
Are you really being serious when you say this?
About what?
About Superman.
Oh, yeah. No, he's
serious.
serious.
Dude, Superman is far from he's a great...
Because I'm just curious, like, if Superman takes his morality out of it, who actually beats him?
The only person who could beat Superman... Well, see, that's the thing, is you've got somebody who can beat everybody. If Superman takes his morality out of it, Gog could. Gog kicked the crap out of him without even thinking. You know what I mean? You're gonna have those on everybody. You really, really are. I'll give Superman the credit where credit's due because he was the first superhero. 1932. I mean, that's the most valuable comic. I just picked up the price guide yesterday, and I think it's 2018 price on it. It's $3.8 million. Detective Comics 27, 3.5 or 3.2 million. I mean, he is worth more as far as the value historically. I'll always give him that. As far as who's the better character today or from the 60s on, I really don't. I think he's overplayed because of the fact that they made him perfect from the get-go. You know what I mean? He's bulletproof. He can fly. He can do all this stuff. They didn't give him an option of a weakness, and to me, puts him in a realm of that's too much. So there's no relating to it, and you're kind of making it an impossible hero, in my opinion. Because if you can do all that stuff, what's the point of being a hero? You're just, like Hercules. You know what I'm saying? A hero takes somebody who they do take a risk. And to me,
that's
what keeps Superman from being the best.
Well, going back to Snyder, and he introduced that with him snapping Zod's neck. Yeah.
Well, and then that's probably one of the, that's one of the reasons why I like Snyder's version so much. Loved it. And that's my biggest thing with Superman. When you look at everybody else, he's never really had to. His planet blew up. But so sad.
Lost his mom and dad.
But come on, dude.
Have some compassion for
not
the
just
guy.
his mom and dad, his entire
race. But let's be honest. The dude's like 4 weeks old when it happens. He's still a baby.
At least Bruce knew his dad, man.
Yeah, Bruce was like 8 or 9. He knew there was that connection. There was severe loss. Clark didn't lose nothing, man. He landed on this planet, still a newborn baby with some great parents he got. You know what I mean?
He lost Pa Kent.
Huh? Well, okay, he did lose Pa Kent eventually, so yes. But
he did.
But he kept Mrs. Kent.
He did keep Miss Kent.
Miss Kent.
Bruce didn't keep anybody. Never could.
Alfred.
Serious. Well, yeah. So, there's another one. Alfred beats Superman. once. Come on. But I mean, so that's, to me, that's what it is. I think, you know, dude, I can go on and on about this. This is something I can never endlessly argue. Historically, Superman is the greatest there is because he's the first. He was the first true superhero.
You heard it straight from
no, wait a minute. Let me
straight from the sludge.
We gotta finish this
show
sentence out.
over.
From a historical standpoint. God, I will give credit where credit's due. Historical standpoint, Superman. I mean, he just is. I mean, you look at that first one. Historically, Superman is Superman for a reason. But as far as a character in the world of comic books with other superheroes, to me there are a few that are better than him because of the characters and who they make them. Batman obviously being one of them because of the fact that, yeah, obviously we know he lost his family, saw him right before his eyes, and then he did everything he could. He has no superpowers. He does it all on his just the strength that he can. He's at the max peak of human strength, uses his intellect, his intelligence, and the means that he's got in front of him. And that, to me, was one of the things that makes him a better character. Also, he will not kill. Superman has crossed that point. You know what I mean? The Superman is one of the few things that makes him weaker than Batman. Batman will not cross those moral guidelines that he has. Superman holds them super dear. I mean, close. To the point where, like, even when the Batman Superman fought the aliens and Predators in comics, Batman's like, let's destroy the aliens. Predators will save because we understand they're, you know, whatever, but let's destroy the aliens because they're aliens. Even Superman was like, no, like, we've got to save them because they're still alive. You know, he's got that morale, but he's crossed that morale. You know what I mean? So there's just too much there. Is he one of the best? He's one of the greatest. He's Superman. Is he the best? He's far from it. Far from it. Spider-Man's another one. I think he's better than Superman too. I said it. Jason's like,
Jason's out.
You know what I think's funny? It's funny you just said that because I'm sitting here listening to us, and every single week we talk about Superman and Batman, almost, or every episode, or, you know, we very rarely bring in a Marvel comic character to compare to them. Right. It's very rare. It's always them too.
It's kind of, I mean, it's, yeah. Well, you're not going to have, I mean, even with Venom, my favorite comic character of all time, I don't put him close to honestly being the level of what Batman and Superman are. He just can't. But when you look at, they're the first. They really are the very
as
first.
As far as comic books,
yeah,
you know,
superheroes.
And you know, we sit here and talk about movies, and you're going to relate to Marvel.
Yeah, because they dominate that market. But I mean, when it comes to the two best superheroes of any of them, you know, I mean, the longest known, the first, it always relates back to those two because they were here before everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's hard to find any Marvel characters that can stand toe to toe with them. You know what I mean? Like I said, Marvel's got theirs. Spider-Man. You know, I think Spider-Man's up there with them.
Spider-Man, I would say maybe the Hulk, just because he's been around a while. You had TV, you know, and
that's true.
Broke into people's lives.
Hulk would be one.
You know, but other than that, Spider-Man and Hulk is, to me, the only two that I would even
put in the same realm with them
to compare, like what we're talking about.
Yeah, because we think of Marvel. Well, Cap maybe nowadays.
Now, I mean, well, but if you talk,
you go back in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, like my father-in-law, he would say Captain America.
Yeah,
because it was just his as a child. He remembers. I've talked to him about this. The only way I can say this is he remembers him as a war hero. That's
right.
You know, and growing up, that
I would put Cap up there with it. Yeah, with him definitely.
But we never go there.
We don't. It's very interesting. We always go with those two. I think it's because it's good for the show because it always guarantees banter right there with Batman and Superman. Because that to me, it's like, you know, that's the endless debate.
Well, there's nobody else in that universe for us to compare like that.
No. You got great heroes. We know that. Lantern, Flash, I mean, even Lobo or Wonder Woman. Yeah. You got great characters. Those two, there's nobody else in the DC universe that comes close to those two, I think. You know, I mean, they're huge. But I mean, that's the comics. Because if you throw Darth Vader in the mix, see a Superman and Batman.
Yeah, man.
It's Darth Vader.
Yeah, man.
Minus Christian Haydenson, because he ruined Darth Vader in one moment. But
it's not his fault.
Yes, it is.
It's the director's fault on that one.
George Lucas, who gave us the great Howard the Duck. How could he ruin Darth Vader?
You got to think, how did he pick him of all people?
Yeah, I mean,
you know, even in that film, when you go through all the way up to that end, man, when he goes in and kills the young Jedi, or the Padawans, that was intense. And I was like, oh
Yeah, it
man,
was.
like
Yeah.
you are turning into Vader, and this is great. The fight with Obi-Wan, it was awesome.
Amazing.
But then you get to the end, I can't even do it because it hurts my feelings just trying to imitate that. No! Dude. William Shatner would have played that part way better than he did. I mean, we look at that. I mean, that even ruined his career for a while. Well, maybe period. Because he did. He took the greatest villain of all time and in a split second turned him into the biggest pansy of all time. That's a feat that's kind of hard to top right there, man. It's just because you got Vader. He's unstoppable.
Yeah. We got to do a Star Wars episode soon.
We were going to. Yes,
we're
going to.
We'll probably talk about this for like another hour.
Oh, yeah, that could happen because Solo. So, all right, we've gone on. We've just kind of had fun doing what we do. Again, guys, thank you so much. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Had a great time with Jason. Thank you so much for filling in.
Absolutely.
And it was literally last minute. Like I texted you like 30 minutes before this record time. It's like, hey, can you be here? Yeah. And man, it's been great. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Shatner game. I think
Yeah, we did.
I want to sign out like Shatner. You know what I mean? This is Sludge, and I'd like to thank you one last time for watching this show. This is Sludge.
This is Matt.
Not Tyler. Jason.
Y'all have a good night.
You're hit. Complete, man.
I ain't got time to